everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining our webinar. Today, before we kind of hop into things as people roll in, I kind of just wanted to set the scene before we jump into the presentation. And my name is Katie Timms. I'm a sustainability associate with the City of Portland Sustainability Office. And as much as me and my office care about reducing carbon emissions, especially in the building sector, we care a great deal about energy affordability and reliable access to affordable clean energy. So I want to just even share a screen for a moment. We're at a moment in time where for any large business in Maine, from our manufacturers to industrial plants to campuses and hospitals, energy is no longer just an operating expense. It's a major risk to your bottom line. Maine is navigating rising energy costs across the board. You can see here just the continuously elevating electricity prices. Residential and commercial electricity rates are being driven up by high wholesale prices and grid infrastructure costs. Natural gas and other fuels used for heat and power generation also remain elevated, and that just creates a sustained pressure on your overall energy budgets. Costs aren't the only concern here in Maine too. Our grid is facing intense pressure from severe weather events becoming more frequent. As Maine electrifies heating and transportation, our overall electricity demand forecast increased significantly too, which strains the grid at peak times. On that note too, peak demand charges can be exceedingly expensive for large users. So I actually think this graph is quite interesting. We're looking at the average annual electric power interruptions by each state. And you can see here that Maine is often experiencing frequent interruptions and lengthier ones. So overall, to sum that up, on-site energy generation could be your means of avoiding some of the risks of reliability and high volatile energy costs. And with that, we have some fantastic, brilliant presenters joining us today who are going to tell us about two somewhat synergistic programs that can help you reduce your future energy costs. So first up, we'll have Kyle Rooney, the Energy Systems Engineer, to introduce us to the U.S. Department of Energy's Onsite Energy Technical Assistance Program. He's joined today by Robert Sullivan, Assistant Director of the New England Onsite Energy Technical Assistance Program. Kyle will walk us through the no-cost, regionally tailored technical expertise their team offers to industrial, manufacturing, and large energy users like yours to evaluate complex on-site energy systems and technologies. Following that, we have Jesse Remillard, Custom Programs Manager with Efficiency Maine, who will walk us through some of Efficiency Maine's pretty incredible incentive programs. And I don't want to steal Jesse's thunder, but these are some major financial incentives, and you offer fantastic free expertise. So I want to leave it to my presenters. And last but not least, save your questions till the end. That would be preferred. So yeah, I'm happy to get started. I think I'm handing it over to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. I'll try and match your energy, but tough act to follow.
Thanks.
I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that just fine.
Perfect.
All right. So yeah, thank you, Katie, and thank you all for being on the call today. My name, as Katie mentioned, is Kyle Rooney. I'm a technical advisor for the New England Onsite Energy Technical Assistance Partnership. We like to call them the TAPs, as that's quite a mouthful. I was the former assistant director of New England's Combined Heat and Power Technical Assistance Partnership in the previous iteration of the program. And the program has transitioned its focus in the start of 2024 to look at additional technologies, which I will talk more about shortly. As mentioned on the call, we have Rob Sullivan, who's the assistant director, and also Matt Davis is the director of our program, both based out of the University of New Hampshire. So I'm going to keep this pretty brief and simply provide an overview of who we are, what we do. I'll talk about the services that we offer, primarily technical assistance that we provide to at no cost. I'm going to say that many times in this presentation to potential end users such as yourselves. And quick slide on some resources that we have if you want to dive into this stuff head on and give an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So, who are we and why are we here talking with you all today? Great question. Look on the right side of this slide. You'll see that we are based in the 6 New England states, comprised of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. But we are not the only region doing this work. We are one of 10 entities, TAPs, funded by the Department of Energy to conduct this work. So if you are joining this call outside of New England, I encourage you to stay on the line because all of this is relevant to you as well. And we'd be happy to introduce you to the local TAP afterwards if you are in that case. So the onsite energy taps primarily do 3 things. We do a lot of things, but like to keep it in 3 buckets here. So we provide technical assistance to potential end users. We also have stakeholder engagement and end user engagement activities. So in order to provide the best possible technical assistance, we engage with various stakeholders and end user organizations to educate folks on onsite energy technologies and implementation like we're doing here today. But we also want to learn about everything that we can do to best help end users install this technology most cost effectively and efficiently. So we also engage with strategic stakeholders such as Efficiency Maine and other state programs across the region, as well as gas and electric utilities, policymakers, and others to learn about any barriers to installing on-site energy, as well as incentives that may help get these projects across the finish line, which Jesse will talk more about in his talk. And again, since we are funded by the Department of Energy, all of the work that we do is at no cost. So this slide's a little bit more about who we work with. For our technical assistance specifically, we primarily work with manufacturing and industrial sites and local towns, cities, wastewater treatment plants, municipal buildings, etc. Folks who are looking to reduce their energy costs or take control of their energy pricing through on-site production. We also work with many high energy users, such as hospitals, universities, greenhouses, hotels, the list goes on. A good rule of thumb to determine if you're a high energy user is basically if you spend about $100,000 on your annual utility costs or more, then you would certainly be a fit for that. Others may also qualify. So we encourage you to reach out regardless of your situation to see if we can assist. And as mentioned on the last slide briefly, we also work with strategic stakeholders such as PUCs, state energy offices, utilities, trade and industry groups, and more, primarily to help reduce barriers to implementation. So this is essentially the same picture that you saw on slide 3, but blown up a bit to show you where each of the TAPS regions are, and also director contact information on the left and right hand side. Don't have to worry about writing any of this down. Presentation will be sent out to you and is recorded, but just give you an overview of where folks are located and what states are represented by each region. We like to include this slide. All right, so I've talked a little bit. I've probably said the words on-site energy about 10 times already in the presentation, but haven't exactly defined what that means. So when I say on-site energy, I'm primarily referring to technologies that can either produce, store, or dispatch electricity, such as battery storage, combined heat and power, which is my main wheelhouse, fuel cells, geothermal, solar PV, waste heat to power, and wind energy. We're also investigating and working with sites to screen for industrial heat pumps, thermal storage, technologies that can utilize alternative fuels, as well as microgrid applications such as co-located industrial facilities, towns, cities, universities, etc. Why are we doing this work? Great question. Glad you asked. Uh, Typically, the most effective way to utilize electricity is to produce it yourself. So in the case of combined heat and power, for instance, rather than purchasing your electricity from the grid and bringing in fuel for your thermal needs, you can potentially produce both from one technology, such as a reciprocating engine or a gas turbine or back pressure steam turbine even to satisfy your site's needs rather than purchasing separate power and fuel. We can look at analyzing one of these technologies that you see here on the screen compared to another, but we can also consider multiple technologies combined in one project to see what the best case fit for you might be. So at this point, I'm sure you're all thinking, wow, that's so cool, or wow, my energy costs are really high, or wow, a no cost analysis. Why haven't I reached out sooner? All great points. And if you're asking either of those, you're probably wondering what to do next. So first, encourage you to simply reach out to us. We typically start with a virtual discussion, ask questions about the site, current energy strategies, where you're looking to be. We'll then request some site data, such as at least 1 year's worth of utility bills. Most of our other questions can be answered in that introductory call. If your site's really difficult to figure out, or we just need some more questions answered and you're willing to have us on site, we'd be happy to come tour the site to get a better understanding of what's going on so we can best help. We'll then use the data that we collect to conduct an initial screening. So this initial screening, which again is at no cost, is roughly the first 10 or so % of an engineering study to help you really determine if you want to spend more capital on a full engineering analysis. That is our bread and butter, kind of passing the sniff test. We are not here to take work away from energy consultants and honestly don't have the bandwidth to complete full engineering analyses. We are here to see whether or not your site makes sense to then go to an engineering consultant and pay for a full study. And so once the initial screening is completed, you'll then receive a report with our results, conclusions, and recommended next steps. So this is an example for the table on the right that you might see on one of our initial screenings. So this particular example was interested in exploring if solar PV or wind or combined heat and power or a mix of solar PV and combined heat and power would be a better fit for the site as compared to their business as usual case, as you see on the left of that table. So our analysis is very high level, as I mentioned, and provides a system size, rough costs, energy savings, if any, and a simple payback. So if the site is interested, we can also investigate potential demand reduction savings, emission reductions, scenarios with alternative fuels, and more. So I would encourage you to just start a conversation with us and see where it goes. And I always like to mention that we are an unbiased, technology neutral third party. What that means is basically if we complete an analysis for you and we see that PV isn't a good fit for you, we will not try and push PV on you. We do not work on commission. We don't receive any compensation for any projects that are installed, and we don't get disbanded if you don't install any of these technologies. We simply want to see happy people with systems that are working well and saving you lots of money. So once you receive the results of our analysis, you should be in a good place to determine if it's worth further studies and spending more capital. And we can continue assisting in that process all the way through implementation. So if you find that our initial screening, say you're a good fit for one or multiple technologies and you want to put out request for proposal documents, we can review those proposal documents. We can compare any bid proposals that come in on an apples to apples basis if you get a few different bids from different companies. We can provide potential, or we can provide information on potential incentives for a project. We don't advocate for specific policies, but we try to stay up to date on all of the policies and incentives that are out there for on-site energy technologies and try to give you the best information that we have, so that it reduces any risk to implementation. But I'll reiterate, the first thing we do is this initial screening. So if you are interested in any of those advanced services, then I would encourage you to get this initial screening done earlier than later, so we can just dive right in and assist as needed. We also have a lot of great resources available at our website. So if you're interested in diving headfirst into this stuff, we have fact sheets on various technologies. We have a bunch of case studies drafted and completed, for folks. Say you're a hospital and you're wondering if other hospitals are installing these technologies and want to learn about lessons learned or just how they're implemented, what some costs and savings are for these technologies. Case studies are always being developed across the region and nationally to help folks understand this. And I also always like to mention the CHP e-catalog as well. It's essentially Amazon for CHP systems. It's really cool. You put in your zip code and you can search by system size, thermal output, technology, whether it's a reciprocating engine, gas turbine, back pressure steam turbine, and basically through putting in your zip code, you can see which systems are available in your area, as well as the solution providers that may be able to help install those systems. So with that, I'd like to thank you all again for being here. Here's our assistant director and director's email if you're interested in reaching out for more information, or call the cell phone at the number provided here. So with that, I am going to pass it off to Jesse.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I just want to say, yeah, even here at the City of Portland, we've started working with Kyle and Robert, and yeah, I encourage anybody who's even just thinking about it, start the conversation, see where that could go. And I do also want to apologize. I thought that I had enabled an open chat, so I'll be following up with an email with links and the slides attached. So no, don't fret. All of the resources shared here today will be shared after this. And yeah, on to you, Jesse. Now for the money.
Thanks, Katie and Kyle. Great to be here and speaking to you folks. I'm Jesse Remillard, Program Manager for Efficiency Maine Trust. I'm going to give you a quick summary of pretty much all the incentives available for commercial and industrial facilities. So anything pretty much non-residential would fall in this category and be eligible for these programs. Get to my next slide. So just a quick background on Efficiency Maine Trust. We're a quasi-governmental organization. We are the state's independent administrator of energy efficiency incentive programs, as well as you'll see some on-site energy related programs. We're governed by a board that's appointed by the governor and confirmed by the legislature. We use a variety of funding sources, the largest of which is the system benefit charge on everybody's electric bill, but then we also have a substantial amount of regional greenhouse gas initiative funds. Lately, we've had some federal grants, and there's usually a few other sources of funding that are mixed in there dedicated for specific end uses. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of both our energy efficiency incentive programs as well as our on-site energy related incentive programs. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the commercial industrial prescriptive program is our largest program in terms of C&I incentive programs. We're highly focused on decarbonization. You'll see that HVAC section has a lot of heat pumps in it. We're really pushing decarbonization through implementation of heat pumps to replace fossil fuel use. But there's also incentives for LED lighting retrofits, multifamily weatherization, smaller compressed air systems can go through the prescriptive program very easily to get incentives for high efficiency compressors or additional receiver storage. We've also got some refrigeration incentives there. So there's lots more details here on our website. In order to access the prescriptive program, you do need to use a qualified partner. There's a search tool on our database, on our website that's linked there. Most of the vendors in the state are qualified partners. So there's a good chance your preferred vendor is already a qualified partner and can help you access these incentives. I would also note pre-approval is required for almost all of our C&I incentives. So it's important to engage with us before you commit to moving forward with the project, before you make your purchases. The prescriptive program does offer virtual consultations if you're not sure how to approach the program or how to access it, or even if you're looking for a little bit of guidance in terms of what would be the best way to proceed for your facility. Those virtual consultations can be a kind of easy way to get some advice in terms of how to proceed. It's a video call with the prescriptive program team. This is another program that we offer that's kind of tangential to what we're talking about today is the demand response curtailment program. So this is one of our few programs where you do not have to install anything. This is turning things off during peak load periods, and we will pay you for that, essentially. So the way that works is we deliver this program or administer it through program partners. So there's a set of those listed on the program page, but essentially you need to enroll through those program partners. They coordinate all the deployment events. So they let you know when you need to deploy. They're responsible for making sure the curtailment events align with the peak load period. So they take that responsibility off of you, but they are also the ones who pay you. So we pay an incentive of $40 per kW of load reduced during those peak load periods, and we pay that to the program partner, and then the program partner shares a portion of that incentive with the customer. And that's the way the incentives for this curtailment program work. If you're a very large facility, you might not be eligible. The folks that receive power at transmission and sub-transmission voltages aren't eligible, but the vast majority of other facilities are. Again, nothing, you don't have to install anything here. You just have to coordinate and enroll with one of the program partners, and you can receive some money for turning things off and curtailing load during those typical peak demand periods, which are hot summer afternoons. Now we'll get into the custom programs. These are the programs that I manage. And I strongly recommend as a first step, if you're not sure kind of what direction you want to go, to reach out to Robert and Kyle's team to get some advice on what might be the best fit for your facility. We can offer some guidance, but really things get real in terms of an application once you've engaged with a vendor. So we can give you feedback and a little bit of guidance, but great first step would be to engage with Robert and Kyle's team. So I'm going to work my way from right to left here, starting with the energy storage, or the large battery program, as we often call it. And then we'll talk about what incentives we offer for distributed generation systems. And I'll just wrap up with a quick slide on the custom efficiency incentives, which is anything that falls outside of the prescriptive program. If it has a cost, saves energy, improves the efficiency of the facility, there's potential for it to receive a custom program incentive. We got some examples listed here. This is going to be a pretty high level. If you have questions about how the program works or what's eligible, I encourage you to reach out. The number on our website sends you to the call center, which can triage you. They're very effective at triaging folks and sending you to the right team. Or you can reach out to me directly, and I can help make sure that you get to the right people for whatever you're kind of looking at or working with at your facility. I mentioned this earlier with the prescriptive program, but pre-approval is required for all the custom program incentives. Very important. We do not require you to work with a qualified partner in the custom program. So all three of these programs don't have to work with a qualified partner, but you do have to work a little bit more closely with us to document the site-specific energy savings and the cost to implement the project, because that's what drives how much money you're eligible for any given project. We complete a final inspection for every project. It's pretty light. It's 1 to 2 hours. We're looking to see that what was proposed was installed and that it's operational. So the large battery program, this is our newest program. These are kind of our demand management related programs, along with that demand response curtailment program. These are all kind of our newer programs. But this is a performance-based incentive program similar to the demand response curtailment program, where we pay you $200 per kW per year to use a battery or a thermal storage system to reduce your load during those peak demand periods. So it's based on the average kW reduction over 15 deployments over the course of the summer. You should expect to deploy between 20 and 30 times in participating in this program. It's going to be during those hot summer afternoons. That's always when the highest load periods are. And your incentive at the end of the season is based on your average demand reduction. So the projects that receive awards through this program, they get a 5-year contract. So you're locked in, you're guaranteed this money is going to be available, and we're going to make that $200 per kW payment to you 5 times over the course of 5 years. So it's a 5-year annual payment based on your performance over those 15 deployments each summer season. An important thing to know about both the energy storage program and the distributed generation program, and really all our programs, we are kind of behind the meter organization. The projects we fund need to reduce grid supplied energy. So we can't incentivize projects that export energy. We can't pay folks who are, consistently export energy to the grid. We can pay folks to reduce the use of grid supplied energy. So that's what this program, the energy storage program and the distributed generation program are for. We're looking for these projects to be behind the meter and non-exporting systems. They must go through, they must apply for a non-exporting interconnection agreement in CMP territory. That's a level 3 interconnection agreement. So we're looking to see that the facility load is, essentially greater than what the capacity of the system that you're looking to install is. We can always give you feedback on that if you're not sure if it's going to be eligible. An example project in this battery program is the Portland Jetport. They're looking to install 2 Tesla Megapacks. Each of those about 950 kilowatts, so a total power capacity of 1.9 megawatts with an energy capacity of 5 megawatt hours, right? So for any battery project, we got power, we got energy capacity, and the 2 metrics together define kind of the system, system performance or system metrics, and it defines how long you can deploy the battery for. So in this case, they're actually looking to deploy the battery at slightly less power than it's rated for in order to get 4 hours of deployment. So they've enrolled for 1.25 megawatts because that allows them to deploy for 4 hours, right? That 5 megawatt hour energy capacity. So if they do 1.25 megawatts output, they get 4 hours. That's going to help them maximize their demand charge savings and the performance incentive that they get from us. So the other revenue streams at play with this project are the clean energy investment tax credit. Is still, batteries are still eligible for that, I believe, through 2033. So that is a big contribution to the return on investment for these projects at commercial facilities. Of course, our incentive, and then the two components of their electric bill, which is the supply portion of the bill and the delivery portion of the bill. And depending on the size of your facility and how your supply contract is arranged, if you have an independent supplier or standard offer, you may be able to capitalize on a battery system on both sides of your bill. Certainly on the CMP delivery portion, especially the new time of use rates are very conducive to using a battery to reduce your demand charges. And then depending on how your supply contract, if you have an independent supplier set up, there may be opportunity there as well. So really an exciting project. One of the larger batteries that's going in on the state, particularly behind the meter, right? I think there's been some front of the meter projects. Again, we are behind the meter at C&I facilities. So really kind of a cool project. I believe this has been approved by the city council, and it seems like it is likely to move forward, which is really exciting. I'm moving on to the distributed generation program, or the DG program. Again, behind the meter, non-exporting systems. This program has historically been combined heat and power systems, so reciprocating engines that are typically equipped with hot water heat recovery systems, right? So they generate electricity and put out hot water as well. But more recently, we found that behind the meter solar PV projects are now cost effective, and we were recently able to make our first award for a solar PV system. There are some kind of conditions about receiving an award through this program. For that type of system, it has to be behind the meter, non-exporting, have that non-exporting interconnection agreement. We are also going to ask you to retire the renewable energy credits. Those are worth money and you can monetize them. But if you want to receive an incentive through our program, you're going to be required to retire those. That's where all the emission benefits are. So if you sell those, you kind of give up the clean energy aspect of that generation. We have generally been successful reaching our cost share with combined heat and power projects. For solar PV projects, we're looking more at about 15 to 20% of the project cost in terms of cost share, the incentive that we would provide. And the way this works for our incentive calculation is that we provide for DG projects 28 cents per kilowatt hour of annual electric savings up to 50% of the project cost, and not more than what results in a 1-year simple payback, or that $1 million per fiscal year. That's general per customer. Each customer can get $1 million per year through the custom program. So that's how we're working. That's what we're working with. You'll see on the energy efficiency incentives table, it's a bit more complicated, but it's the same general approach. It's an incentive rate up to a portion of the project cost and not more than what results in a 1-year simple payback. An example of one of these projects is a combined heat and power unit at the owned by Peaks Renewables at the Flood Brothers Farm in Clinton. This is a 280 kW combined heat and power unit. There's not a ton of anaerobic digester facilities in the state, but there are a few, and they make a great place to put a CHP unit because they have continuous thermal loads to serve. So the hot water output from the CHP unit can directly serve the digester thermal needs throughout the year. So the key, from at least from my personal perspective, for CHP units is having a continuous thermal load to serve with the output from the unit. That's what makes for a really good candidate for CHP. There's also the back pressure steam turbines, for which you need a high pressure boiler. And then solar PVs are a little bit simpler, but you got to have the load to use that generation when it's being generated. Oh, let's see here. So the other thing I'll mention here about these case studies, this one in particular, is that electric rates have kept going up. So the simple payback for this project is probably better than it was when they moved forward, when they implemented the project. But this is a really solid project. This is just an example of a place which is a really good fit for combined heat and power. We've also supported combined heat and power units at hotels that have pools or heated sidewalks, so they have the thermal load. Usually the pool is kind of one place to put thermal energy during the summer. Hospitals can also be a really good candidate because they have usually pretty heavy dehumidification requirements during the summer. And the way dehumidification is done, there's a reheat cycle. And so they also typically use quite a bit of fuel during the summer. So you're looking for that place to put the thermal output from the unit. I'm going to wrap up here. We just got a couple more slides. So our energy efficiency program incentives for the custom program capture anything that falls outside of the prescriptive program, really, and is an efficiency measure. So this could be anything from large VFDs. We've supported like thermal curtains at greenhouses to reduce fuel use. Heat recovery projects have been a theme, or we've seen a number of those come through the program in the last couple of years at industrial facilities. Pretty broad variety of projects. Could also be specialty equipment that you have on site. Maybe there's a specific type of machine that you use and there are options on that machine, some of which are more efficient than others. We can potentially help offset the cost of the additional cost of those more efficient units. So really broad scope here on the custom energy efficiency program. We do need to see a minimum cost, minimum incentive of $10,000 unless your load, your peak demand is less than 400 kW. If you're an MGS customer, we can do $5,000 incentives. And then the way this table reads, again, is it's an incentive rate. So these are additive electric and fuel savings. If you got both, they can add together. But it's those incentive rates per unit of annual energy savings up to 1% of the project cost and not more than what results in a 1-year simple payback. And the incentive is limited to the lesser of those three. So we calculate, what's the total energy savings, apply those incentive rates, take a look at the total cost, see if we've hit that cap. And if we haven't, it's based on the rate. And then we do the simple payback limitation. So super broad, and definitely reach out. I'm running you through a bunch of programs that we have. So it can be a little bit daunting in terms of where to start in terms of our programs. I encourage you to reach out and just engage with us, and we'll make sure you get to the right people depending on what you're trying to do. We do also offer some technical support. The custom program offers free scoping audits for folks that have potential for large custom incentives. These are generally incentives greater than $200,000. So these would be expended, capital project costs of $400,000 and up. So we're looking for larger facilities to do the free scoping audits. That said, we are happy to weigh in and help you as much as we can. We're happy to talk to you. If you're just looking for advice in terms of energy efficiency measures or whatever it is, we will do our best to help you. We can often provide some technical analysis before you get to a real application and just kind of weigh in terms of what we're seeing. We do also offer technical assistance funding for engineering work that needs to be done in order to get a project to the point where it can be actionable. So if you've got a project and you're pretty sure it's a good project, but you're going to have to go to bid, you need to have system designs completed and construction documents put together. We can help offset the engineering costs to do that, to put it to bid so that you can get it to the point where it's actionable and you can move forward. Similarly, on some more complex complex projects, larger, more complex projects, you might want to have an investment grade energy analysis done to really investigate how much it's going to cost to implement the project and what are the expected energy impacts. So we can help offset those engineering costs as well to get it to a point where you can make a decision about whether or not it's something you want to proceed with. That technical assistance funding is also available to help offset the interconnection application costs for the battery projects. It's one area we're trying to help move those along. For any of the DG and battery projects, the interconnection becomes a very important step in terms of implementing the project and something you want to get a handle on before you make a major commitment to moving forward. And then we do also have a dedicated technical assistance program for schools, pre-K through 12 schools only. So we can help develop the system designs and construction documents to go to bid for really any type of project, custom or prescriptive. So it's a little bit more broad. Our standard technical assistance program only supports the development of custom projects. The school decarbonization technical assistance program supports the development of custom and prescriptive projects. And also we can support the costs of legal services to arrange solar PV PPA agreements. And that's a wrap for me.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned schools too. I see that, yeah, one of the questions in the chat was about schools, but I mean, we have such a wealth of resources here with us today. So I do want to open up the floor for any questions. If you raise your hand, I can make sure you're allowed to talk. But yeah, I'm so appreciative for everybody here today. This is, yeah, free tools that can truly help you save money. Got some experts. Yeah, Robert.
Katie, thanks a lot for having us today. And I think a good summary of what we heard here is a lot of projects start with the head scratching step, which is, man, I know I need to do something, but I don't know what. And so between Efficiency Maine Trust and the TAP, there's technical resources. Those, I think a lot of these distributed and on-site energy projects do a couple things for you. One, you're hedging against that slide that Katie showed in the beginning that says electricity price is going to rise. I'd love to say that's not the case in the future, but I don't see any evidence in the market that says that's not accurate and going to continue. After the technical piece is done, you have capital support here to build the project. We know operational savings are going to come from good energy projects. So you'll see that in these reports that come from both groups. And then another real key thing is there's a whole lot of hard things to price, and that's reliability in the market. And reliability is, everybody's got a different problem when the power goes out. It's really hard to price it, but it helps you sleep at night to know you got on-site energy production at your site. So all of those pieces can be resolved using these two different groups that are available. So I appreciate everybody coming and participating today.
Spot on, Robert. Thank you. Thank you for that summation. I see Julie Rosenbach.
Thanks, Katie. And thank you for putting this great, fantastic panel together. I just want to make sure to clarify. So you don't have to have a project in mind to take advantage of these resources, right? If it's say, like our schools, there's usually one guy that's managing all the buildings everywhere. It sounds like Kyle, you and your team could sit down and say, let's understand what you're starting from and where you might want to go to, and then move over and work with Jesse at Efficiency Maine to say, hey, here's some projects that you might want to plan for in the next couple of years. Correct?
Yes, Julie. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I think our services come in handy most for those specific entities who may not necessarily have the on-site engineering talent or expertise, or even the bandwidth to take on an additional project in addition to what their responsibilities are. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to reach out to us and figure out what strategy might be best for you. So if if anything, I would highly encourage folks to reach out to us just to see if they might be worth considering for an analysis. And if so, and if you proceed, then certainly I believe Jesse and his team are excellent at kind of digging a bit deeper into these projects and helping to incentivize these.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. I see another question in the chat, talking about the mention of PPAs. I think, Jesse, that was in one of your slides. I think it was specifically about schools, but yeah, but if anybody wants to talk about performance contracts or PPAs.
Yep. Yeah, these are the pay for performance agreements. So we don't, this is like one area where we do offer some funding to arrange the power purchase agreements, the PPAs. We otherwise don't offer incentives for these, but we have that school decarbonization technical assistance program, which can help pre-K through 12 schools only. So nobody else is eligible for that funding support, to pay for the legal services to help them arrange that PPA. So we've coordinated with a couple of the major legal firms in the state, and they're familiar with the program, but essentially you'd be working with your lawyers and the vendor who owns the solar PV field and is gonna give you the PPA to put together that contract, right? Because that's a legal document. You're not installing anything on site. This is off site only, and you're participating in a power purchase agreement where you're buying the power essentially from this solar array somewhere. So yeah, hoping that kind of answers the question. It's only for schools, offsets the legal costs associated with arranging those contracts, those agreements, those legal agreements. And I'm happy to, if David, if you want to reach out directly, we could talk through the process of applying in more detail.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else with questions? Troy, go for it.
So this is for Jesse, I think. So I assume we've worked with Kyle and Robert. We've come up with a proposal. It looks like if we could do a solar PV behind the meter coupled with some battery storage project. Can we stack incentives to make that like one project that would be eligible for your incentive program?
Yes. Yep. It would be, so they would, the batteries and the solar PV incentives they have a different structure. So they would be two separate awards. They kind of operate independently, where the solar PV system is a passive system. It's generating whenever the sun's out. And the battery system is an active system where you have to kind of actively manage the deployments and how that system operates. So they kind of operate independently of each other. They would be two separate awards, but you can get incentives for both those technologies. And you can apply for Like we can make awards for multiple efficiency measures as a single award. Those can go through like that. But the battery and like DG projects, they get separate awards, but you can get awards for both systems at a single facility.
That's a great point. Thank you, Troy.
Good question.
Any questions out there? Got, I'll say it again, a wealth of knowledge in front of you. If not too, I'll happily include all of this in a follow-up email along with contact information.
Spread the word, get the word out. I mean, we're here to help. Costs are up. Energy costs are higher than they've ever been. You got resources here to help you. Kyle and Robert's team and Efficiency Maine is here too.
Thank you.
Looks like
Looks like
David
David.
has a question.
I think I'm sort of operating at the edge of my knowledge here, so I apologize. But I know that the Westbrook school system has a energy savings performance contract with Siemens, and I think a similar contract with Revision Energy to do solar. And they are not it's not they actually bought the system. They're buying the systems, and they're expecting to pay for all their school renovations and their solar installations with savings that are financed over a 20-year period by their savings. So this is different than a PPA. So that's what I was asking about.
I think that is different than a PPA. I'm pretty familiar. I mean, most of the schools implement these kinds of projects or energy efficiency projects through ESCOs because it works for them. They're able to, it's a finance, they offer a financing approach that allows the schools to get things done that they need to get done. Right. So that's pretty common. Often see the schools working with the Honeywell or Siemens in terms of implementing building improvement projects. It sounds like it might be kind of a novel PPA agreement in terms of the solar PV. No, because it's not. They own the system. So I'm not quite sure how that plays into it, but I assume they're leveraging the energy cost savings that they're achieving through the contract with Siemens to pay their loan, I think, I would guess, for the solar PV.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
They will use the savings to pay for
Yeah.
the building upgrades and the solar installation.
Yeah.
And they're anticipating a 49% reduction in their total energy consumption for their 5 schools. I think it's 5 or 6 schools in an admin building. And Portland, of course, has 2 to 3 times that number of schools. So the Westbrook is anticipating saving $10 million or more over the 20 years of the project. These are not my numbers. These are Siemens and Revision numbers. And it's a guaranteed performance contract. So they're performing.
I think that, the ESCOs offer something that really works for the schools, which is kind of that financing approach. I would recommend looking closely at any vendor delivered energy savings estimates, particularly the baseline that they're using as a basis of those guarantees, to make sure that the baseline is appropriate and represents the actual facility. But it can really work, and I think it is a way that schools are able to make things happen. And we do work with schools and those ESCOs, Siemens and Honeywell, quite frequently. And they're both qualified partners, so able to access prescriptive programs, and happy to work with those folks.
Thank you,
Thank
David. Yeah, maybe we'll do a case study in the future. Have a conversation about what's happening over there in Westbrook.
We just had a marvelous meeting a week ago with Tony Lombardo, who's the facilities director in Westbrook. And he explained a lot of this, and also Pete Rarig from Siemens was on the line, and John Dunster from Revision. And that was a pretty powerful meeting.
That's
Awesome.
awesome to hear.
Yep, I know those folks.
Thank you.
I think we have maybe time for one more question. If not, while we're also chatting about energy efficiency, I do have another webinar tomorrow that walks over 2 free tools that can help you start thinking about improving your energy efficiency and really just get a better understanding of your energy performance. So I'll include that in the follow-up as well. Kind of an alternative to onsite. But yeah, I think maybe this is the end of things. But yeah, I think Jesse gave a great summary too of you've got 2 free resources that can really just help you, even if you're just starting to think about these types of technologies or what you might be able to accomplish at your site. So I really so grateful for all of our speakers here today, and thank you for everybody who joined us too for the hour. But yeah, I just want to say happy Wednesday. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Katie. Really appreciate it.
Yay. Okay. See you later.